Hey, how you doing? I hope you're well. I'm Deanna and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you all the books that I read in the month of March. March was a pretty good reading month. I did manage to read 14 books, which is 2 less than I did in February and January. However, I did read more pages than I did in February. So those 14 books came to a total of 5,812 pages. In terms of star rating, the average rating for the month was 4.4 stars, and we had 5 5-stars, 4 4.5 stars, 5 4 stars, and 1 3.5 stars. In terms of genres, romance came out on top with 7 romance books read. I read 3 Omegaverse, 2 paranormal, 1 mythology, and 1 fantasy book. Moving along to formats, we are still heavily in my digital format era. Audiobooks came out on top with 6. I did read 5 arcs, 2 ebooks, and 1 paperback. Moving on to my series versus standalone, we seem to have ruined all the progress we made in January. So we had 1 standalone, 7 first books, and 6 sequels. So hopefully in April we can get more sequels read than first books. So without further ado, let's dive into the books. The first book I read was Psycho Fae by Jasmine Mass. This is the second book in her Cruel Shifterverse series. It is a kind of fantasy Omegaverse. We are following Sadie, who is the first female alpha, and it continues on from book 1. I love this series. It is wild, crazy, bonkers. Like, if you love a Why Choose dark kind of paranormal fantasy romance series in the vein of Her Tortured Beast or even the Mate games, it kind of has that same wacky plot, really addictive vibe. I think you would really enjoy this series. Sadie's inner monologue is just hilarious and I adore it. We end up in a different part of the world. So this world is kind of broken into like the shifters, there's a Fae world, and then there's what's called the beasts. So we spend the majority of the book in the Fae world, kind of realizing that what Sadie and the other alphas, so we have Cobra, Jax, and Asher. Asher, after the reveal of what happened in the end of book 1, we kind of realize he knows a little bit more about the political intrigue and in particular what the Fairy Queen has been doing, but it definitely Jax and Cobra have no idea what's happening. And the ending of this one is wild, and I've been dying to pick up Psycho Beast, which is the 3rd book in this overall 6-book series, but the last book in Sadie and her men's trilogy. And yeah, we had Deadly Trials in here and it was a lot of fun. Doesn't at all make much sense because I don't want to spoil it, but just know I completely loved and devoured it. In March we did have the Thick Thighs readathon, which was hosted by Sash Reads, The Reading Wren, Shebas and Shelves, and Bin Chicken Books. So I did get to read romances with plus size main characters. First book I completed for the readathon was Deceived by the Gargoyles, which is by Lillian Lark, and this author in particular has been on my radar forever. I just have taken my sweet time to get to her. She writes monster romances, and while this technically isn't the first book in the series, it has gargoyles, it's Why Choose, so I had to pick it up. We're following a witch named Grace, who's a bit of a disappointment to her family because her power seems to be that she's able to derive things from text and paper. So she is a librarian and she is kind of sick of her family belittling her, and she isn't seeing someone, but her mother has sent her on another horrific first date with a horrible frat boy, finance bro vibe. And he clearly is only interested in her because of her family connections. Like, this man just talks about himself the entire day, and if he's not talking about himself, he is looking at his phone, and she says, goodbye, we are never going to see each other again. She finally decides to go to this matchmaker who's like a family friend. There are witches who do this matchmaking service, and she really does want to find the love of her life, have family, all that sort of stuff. So she does mention that she's doesn't mind if it is a witch. She's open to different monster matches, and that she's only interested in one partner, so not interested in multiple partners. And then she meets Elliot Bramblewick, who is a gargoyle, and she meets him. He's in glamour and he is absolutely besotted with her. She is a plus size character. Obviously, I read it for the Thick Thighs Readathon, who is pretty confident in her body or really loves the way she looks. That doesn't mean to say that she isn't, belittled or has comments thrown at her by family, or this suitor was kind of surprised that she was not interested because, she's a fat girl, so she should be lucky I looked at her. But she dresses in these kind of cute vintage dresses, and she is overall pretty happy with herself and knows her self-worth, which is something I appreciate from a plus size main character. And Elliot is completely besotted with her. However, what he hasn't told her is that he has two bonded people in his pack, coven, I can't remember the exact terminology, and that she wouldn't just be dating him, she would be dating Broderick and Lachlan. And in particular with their dynamic, it is a poly situation, so Elliot is in a romantic and sexual relationship with both Broderick and Lachlan. Lachlan and Broderick don't see each other like that, and at the moment their clan is not doing too well, and as a clan they're not really meshing well together. Lachlan has taken over the ownership of the clan from their last leader, who has since decided to go to sleep and turn to stone like we'd imagine gargoyles to be, and he's struggling with taking on that mantle and filling his mentor's shoes. Broderick is kind of in his own creative space. He is a sculptor and an artist, and there's a real disconnect between the three of them. They had previously talked about finding a mate and starting a family. Elliot, at kind of a brink of not knowing what to do and having seen Grace from a distance, decides that he is going to court her and bring everybody together. Even though Grace is not interested in multiple love interests and their clan isn't in a very good spot. But it was very sweet, very spicy, and I really enjoyed the dynamic with the clan and all the characters. I cannot believe it's taken me this long to read Lillian Lark, so very excited to get to her back catalogue. I next read A Camera Shy by Kay Cove. This is a contemporary romance. We're following a woman who was expecting to be engaged on her 30th birthday. She'd been with her boyfriend for quite a long time, like we're talking upwards of 7 to 8 years. They owned their business together. Things had been a bit bland, but they'd been so focused on their business that she just thought once everything kind of settles down, they'll be able to reconnect, and she's ready to, start that next chapter of their life together. So it's on her 30th birthday. While the ex does present her with a ring, he instantly freaks out when he sees it on her finger and asks for them to break up. Avery's life is completely turned around. Her ex-partner and current business partner, Mason, does still want them to work together. So they work in like a social media, like PR branding. Mason does like the websites and things like that, but Avery really does the heavy lifting in terms of client liaison, doing all the analysis in terms of like who their target audience is, what their competitors are, and really working with them to create a brand to help boost their business. So they do have a $1 million deal on the line with a really big hotel chain. So Mason is trying to get Avery still in, because at this point in time, she just wants to dissolve the business, cut this man out from her life. At the start of the book, she's not fully 100% sure if he had been cheating on her. He just kind of mentioned that hadn't happened, but he'd thought about it. Completely lost what to do. One of their clients is like this kind of billionaire rich boy who owns a scuba diving business and is doing this big tour, but needs someone to mind his house in Vegas to feed his fish, because he is fish obsessed. And Avery says, I'll do it. It's going to be for the summer. So that gives her a chance to break away from Mason, figure out what the hell she's going to do. While in Vegas, she meets next door neighbor Finn, who is a photographer who specializes in boudoir photography. And what I really enjoyed about this book is that we definitely had a different take on like a plus size character. Avery is shell-shocked about what's happened and isn't really feeling at all sexy, at all confident, at all in love with her body, and Finn offers to give her a photo shoot and helps boost her confidence. In exchange, she will then work on his business and help, boost sales and things like that, because he's not doing a fantastic job. We then go into like sexy lessons type thing, and Finn is absolutely besotted and thinks she is like the sexiest thing ever. He refers to as goddess, and the way he's able to empower her and make her realize that she is worthy and that whatever Mason had done and had made her feel was not justified and not valid. And yeah, I loved getting to see her self-discovery and like healing journey in that regard. It was pretty hot, I'm not gonna lie, and excited to get to the next book in this series. I think this is called Lessons in Love, and the next one's called Snapshot. So really enjoyed Kay Cove's writing, and the next one is a marriage of convenience about two friends striking a deal to save a billion-dollar company. Oh, also I should say she does have a best friend from like primary school who is the worst. They have been obviously friends for a very long time, and she is the hot girl. She is doing the whole like broke artist thing, and she's either working at a bar or working doing makeup and stuff, but she's auditioning and things like that. And the amount of times that she calls Avery, knowing that Avery will drop everything she's doing, drive across the country for her to help this girl get her big break, is ridiculous. The girl does offer to stay in Vegas with her and help, Avery heal after the whole Mason thing, but ends up dropping things and getting a callback for a pilot and ends up driving across the country taking Avery's car, because Avery is so supportive of her friend that she's like, yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the extra beautiful things about Finn helping Avery, along with finding her own worth, is finding that she is worth more in platonic relationships as well. She is super crazy confident at work, but he's just been able to open her eyes to be like, she can be that woman and she is worthy in other settings outside of the workplace. So the way that she's able to realize that this friend is absolute trash, has never kind of given anything or reciprocated anything in the relationship, and was able to cut her off, I was cheering, because I think sometimes with relationships, whether they are like platonic, familiar, romantic, there does come a point where you've been friends for so long, or this person's been in your life for so long, that it's just kind of like, oh, it is what it is. And realizing when those relationships don't serve you was really great to see, in also that platonic sense as well. So I did just want to add that, because I think that was handled particularly well as well. Then I read the Shattered Silence Duet by Shana Knight. She did send me a review copy for the second book, Silent Betrayal, and she'd reached out to me after I'd reviewed the Of Mine series, because she said, hey, I've got a dark white shoes romance with Criminal Minds vibes. And I said, say less, girl, I'm here. In this, we are following Mina, who for the past 11 years has been abused. Her mother has kept her locked in the basement. She's a punching bag. It's very dark. It is very, very dark. And we do see parts of that at the start of the book. The mum just seems to be a drunk. She also has boyfriends coming out of the house who help in the abuse. It never gets sexual with the boyfriends, because the mum doesn't like that. As well, Mina is mute. When she was younger, she did fight back and try to escape from the abuse, but since then, she stopped talking and pretty much stopped fighting as self-preservation. Please check the trigger warnings with this one. She doesn't really know what happened. Her dad left when she was about 4 or 5, and the mum just like flipped a switch, started abusing her, and then kept her locked from, 6 or 7. So for whatever reason, her mother has let her out of the basement and has enrolled her into school, and she is really not sure what the hell is going on. The mum has kind of made it seem like she had a car accident, which has resulted in a brain injury. So while she's there at school, the idea is that, she'll be kind of kept at the back of the class and has colouring in books and kind of infantilizes her. On the flip side, she has threatened Mina with death multiple times, that if she does try and get help, do anything outside that, and the teachers report it, she will be harmed. Her guidance counselor, Gideon, who is noticing that something isn't quite right with how the mum speaks to Mina and how Mina is acting, so does what he can to help shield her. She's not been around people for a very long time, so she does get overwhelmed and has panic attacks. So he does give her classes where she has friends, because on the first day, 2 boys, Jasper and Max, these are twins, they are in the same year level as her. They kind of take her under their wing learning, and they sit with her in class. They notice very quickly that while Mina is mute and is supposed to have this injury, that she is crazy smart. Like, she is picking up the maths and chemistry that they're in and is following along, but is too terrified to speak up. So they end up trying to get her into a safe place and try and figure out what is going on. This was quite dark, but I did really enjoy it. The first book is very dark. We're kind of sitting Mina where she's still in the house with her mother. She is terrified for her entire life. She doesn't really know how to take her friendships with Max and Jasper. She isn't 100% sure of their intentions, and even the teacher, Gideon, and their sport teacher, Tucker, they seem to be kind and genuine people, but she hasn't had any kind of role model or any kind of kindness shed her way. So all she knows is that her mother's been saying that she's to blame, it's her fault, the devil has bespelled her, all this kind of stuff. So it's interesting being in Mina's head and realizing that she wants to escape and she's been given this opportunity, but she's really got to play it safe, because one wrong move or one wrong decision to trust the wrong person, she's gonna die. The second book, it is less dark. We're following her recovery, no spoilers or anything, and it is a why choose, and it is her relationship with Max, Jasper, also Gideon and Tucker. Obviously secrets are revealed. They realize that she's not 17, she's actually 21, and there are a few more players involved. All up, there's 7 guys in the why choose situation, which at start, I will admit, was a bit overwhelming, but Jana Knight does a fantastic job at giving Mina moments with each of the guys. The spice doesn't happen until book 2. There are twists galore. There are some very sweet moments where each of the guys take her out on a date, and yeah, I really enjoyed this series. It did hit me quite hard the first book. When I opened it, I was like, oh, this is dark. So yeah, check the trigger warnings, be kind to yourself, but if any of that sounds interesting, it does have that Criminal Minds element, and did thoroughly enjoy the series overall. I then picked up the Roommate Risk by Talia Hibbert, and this is in her Midnight Heat collection, where The Princess Trap was the first book. It's been a while since I've read The Princess Trap. I'm not sure if they're like just in the same world or they've got connecting characters. I love Talia Hibbert and I really do need to read more of her work, and that's a goal of mine for this year. This is a friends to lovers romance between Jasmine Allen and her friend Raoul Khan. So the pair of them meet at college and they do have a one-night stand. Jasmine is studying law. She's quite pushy. She is this voluptuous, confident woman, which we do love to see. And she's the one who makes the first move with Raoul. Raoul is, I think he does like finance or accounting, is quite shy and nerdy. Jasmine is not one to be attached to anybody. We find out that her mother abandoned her at a young age and her dad never wanted to talk about it. Her dad then made some money and, you know, lifted them up into upper statuses, but because of that, her mother abandoning them, she has never been interested in a deeper connection romantically. She does tell that to Raoul, and Raoul says, well, I would rather be friends with you. Like, if this is only going to be like a couple of times fling and then you're not going to be interested in me, I would rather your friendship than to just throw it away, which is really quite sweet. We do have a lot of diversity in here. Raoul is Pakistani Indian and his family is Islamic, and Jasmine is a black character, and I loved them. This one is actually quite angsty, and it's not something I remember from The Princess Trap, but I appreciated it. Jasmine had bad luck. She's this high-powered lawyer who works for a not-for-profit who is trying to help people who've lost their housing and things like that, fight against landlords and big business. She herself kind of keeps everything friendship-wise, romance, everything really surface level. There's only 2 people in her life that she loves and adores and have let in. That's her dad and Raoul. So she comes home one day after a kind of shit date and a shit day at work, and the apartment that she sublets from this girl she knows, who's this kind of artist whose parents are loaded, so she's doing the whole like like troubled artist thing, but her dad pays for everything. She comes home and realizes there's been a leak in an apartment that was solely limited to her bedroom. So her entire bedroom is ruined. Her dad at this time is overseas on like a month-long cruise with his new wife, and so she calls on her best friend Raoul, who offers to let her stay with him. And it is that forced proximity that really makes them realize that they've kind of been dating and acting like they've been dating for a long time, but Jasmine has really been in denial. Raoul has been kind of in love with her and pining for her since they first met, but I kind of appreciated the fact that he was like, well, I'd much rather you in my life as a friend than anything else. Trigger warnings for alcoholism. Jasmine is not necessarily an alcoholic, but she does use alcohol as a crutch and does drink a lot, and that is addressed. They both do a lot of work. Raoul is a people pleaser, and since his father died, he's felt like he has to take on the mantle of the man of the family and protect his family and provide for his family. So he does a lot of self-sacrificing and making sure the people in his life are happy and healthy. And when they first kind of start exploring their dynamic, they aren't necessarily in the best place individually to have this work out well, and it could toe the line between being like fantastic relationship, or it can tip into the toxic relationship sector. We do have a third act breakup in here, but I appreciate that it was necessary and that both of the characters do go ahead and work on themselves for Jasmine's sake, that she has an issue with alcohol and works on her abandonment issues, and then Raoul works on his own like people-pleasing, self-sacrificing stuff. And the spicy scenes in here are fantastic and hot, as I expect from Talia Hibbert, but I just wasn't expecting that level of angst and really did enjoy these characters. It was hard to read. They weren't necessarily the nicest or most likable people at times, but it felt very authentic, and I am very excited to get to the third book in this series. Next, I read Once Upon a Pack by Ari Wright, and I completely adored this. This is a very sweet romance with your typical Omegaverse theme, and we have Cinderella vibes with the modern day royalty, so it kind of almost gives me like the Princess Diaries vibes, which I adored, and I completely devoured this in 24 to 48 hours. If it wasn't for the fact that I had to get up for work the next morning, I would have stayed up all night reading it. I have definitely found a new Omegaverse author. We are following Ivy, who's had a pretty tough life. At this stage, she believes she is a beta, and she has dropped out of college to help her aunt take care of her Omega mother, who is dealing with this sickness after her mate has died. So she's dropped out of college, she's helping pay for bills, and she ends up getting a job at the nearby palace, which is where her mother used to work when she was well, as a seamstress to the queen. This is like a faux England kind of, which gives me Genovia vibes of, you know, Princess Diaries. And she becomes the housekeeper for the prince's pack. She gets chosen because she's supposed to be a beta, and the Crown Prince Asher has broken centuries of tradition and has decided to form a pack, which hasn't been done since the very early kings of this realm. However, they need to find themselves an Omega to then be able to access the throne. They've kind of been fucking around a little bit, and the king and queen have been like, that's it, you have until such a time to go ahead and find it. So they get taken to this kind of side palace to wife hunt, essentially. Evie does do her best to keep out of the prince's way as much as possible, given that she is their housekeeper, because Prince Asher was her childhood sweetheart and someone that she became friends with and then obviously fell in love with as she spent her summers at the palace where her mum worked. And it was years earlier, before college, that he sent her away because he knew that Ivy was it for him. However, his duty to the crown meant that they were never going to be compatible because he needed to find an Omega, and so he sent her away. And then his pack includes Lord Sebastian and Baron Dare. So Sebastian is kind of the golden retriever of the group. He is this very stylish, very charming lord, and he's often the one that unfortunately gets sent to clean up either the kind of reserved harshness of Prince Asher or the blatant disrespect of Baron Dare. Baron is our bad boy. He's tattooed, he has a very troubled past, and he wants nothing more than to burn his family name into the ground. He hates his father and will do anything anything to make his title and his family name a belittlement. So interesting pack. Alongside working with the palace, Ivy is also a seamstress and is working basically 2 jobs to help pay off her mother's medical bills, and her aunt and cousins are atrocious, which fits in with the Cinderella vibes. One day, her work friend convinces Ivy to take the night off and sneak into the royal masquerade ball. The princes are running out of time, so the queen has decided to host a ball, invite all the eligible Omegas in the land, you know, allies from other countries, with the idea that they will just be able to scent her. She kind of reluctantly agrees to attend in hopes of staying out of the way. That doesn't happen. When the minute she walks in, the princes, all 3 of them, Asher, Bass and Dare, are all drawn to her. She freaks out. The guys have gone, yep, she's ours, she's their Omega. Ivy is like, I do not know what the hell is happening, and she runs. This is all before they can figure out who she is, and you know, it is their romance. I completely love this. I love the way that she was able to weave in that fairy tale retelling while creating this modern royalty setting. When Asher, Bass and Dare find out who Ivy is and how they've treated her poorly in their own ways, they do their best to woo her and apologize and grovel to her, which I love to see. And then we find out that yes, Ivy is an Omega, but something had happened to her to suppress that. So while she's going through this whole new change of becoming, you know, the crown princess and being wooed by and courted by these pack of royals, she's also struggling with the fact that she is an Omega and her instincts are popping out, and the way that they just handle her with such kindness and sweetness, it was just fantastic. I devoured this. It's like a 500-page book. I couldn't get enough, and I could read another 300 to 400 pages of these characters because I love them so much. Very excited to get to the next book, which is supposed to be a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I secretly hope it is with Jasmine, because as part of poor Ivy's crash into the limelight, she ends up doing these like princess in training classes with the queen, and also Jasmine, who is an Omega and was actually one of the suitors that we see early on in the book, and I just loved it. So that was a very long ramble to say completely loved it, and you should read it. Next, I read If Love Had a Price and If We Were Perfect by Anna Huang. So that's books in her If Love series. Book 3 follows Chris and Nate. So this is set kind of after that Shanghai trip, and we're following Chris, who was trying to get her dad to not marry this horrible woman. This is the woman who, while on Shanghai, got her dad to cut her credit card and spending. She is kind of your typical spoiled rich girl, but she does kind of have a heart of gold underneath. So she decides to hire Nate, who is a barista and aspiring actor, $15,000 to catch her future stepmother in a compromising position so her dad will break off the relationship. And it's through their fake dating, because Chris has realized that this woman seems to covet anything that Chris has, so she figured, hey, let's pretend to date, see if she makes some advances on you, and then we just need to get a private investigator to take some photos, bada bing bada boom, this woman's out of here. And it's through that forced proximity that they end up falling for each other. Nate doesn't morally want to do it, but his family is struggling. His dad is an alcoholic, his sister is in senior year of high school and about to go off to college, and he's really the only person who is bringing in money. So he figures if he takes this job, he may be able to really get into auditions and try and get his acting career to take off. I really loved them together. There is a moment where Nate kind of feels inadequate and that he's not worthy of Chris because of his bank balance. There is a very typical on-brand soap opera, and I mean that in the nicest, loving possible way. I love it. Twist ending in here. I didn't think I was going to like Chris at the start, but the way she acts, but as the book goes on, we kind of see that blasé rich girl is just a facade, and she really does have a heart of gold and will do anything for the people she loves. And then we had If We Were Perfect, which was the kind of long-awaited second chance romance between Olivia and Sammy. These two were the golden couple of the Shanghai trip and managed to stay together for about a year after, but this is the perfect case of right person, wrong time, multiple times. They bump into each other again when Olivia is moved to San Francisco for a little while to finish off her MBA and has kind of transferred her. She works in some kind of finance thing. It's like a very like finance bro industry, and like there's only 2 women in her office. So she transfers from the New York office to San Francisco so that she can be closer to uni and work. She is your typical type A personality. She was the girl of the group who had spreadsheets and calendars and was organized and everything like that. They had issues in their relationship. He turned down a NASA job to open up his own bakery. The bakery has since gone big and viral, and he's opened up stores in San Francisco where he lives, and then also a store in New York, and I think he's opening another one somewhere else. So he took the risk and decided to do something he loved, and it worked out. The pair of them bump into each other while Olivia is on a horrible date. Seems to be a running theme of this month's romances, and she runs off into the night. She gets to her apartment. Unfortunately, their flood has happened. Another theme of the romances this month, and not knowing what to do, she rings Sammy in the middle of the night. Sammy is kind of like, what the fuck, you haven't contacted me in a while, and wasn't going to reach back out to her, but he figured with knowing how Olivia is, she would have cross-referenced and did the, pros and cons analysis, so it must be pretty serious. So he rings her back. She's kind of defeated and said, look, sorry, I didn't mean to ring you. I've got it all sorted. And he said, what's wrong? And she explained that there's a flood, but it's all good. She's gonna figure it out. And Sammy, who is an absolute sweetheart, goes and drives across town in the middle of the night to pick her up. They end up living together. There's kind of like a forced proximity moment. They do get back together. It doesn't work out well. The pair of them are both super self-sacrificing. That seems to be their whole thing. When an obstacle comes in their way that Olivia's not sure what to do because it's between being with Sammy and her career, Sammy decides to make the decision for them to end their relationship, and it just seems to be a pattern that happens with these two. Obviously it's a romance, so they finally do get together, but I do appreciate that they didn't rush into it. Olivia had some things to go through because we meet her mother, and she's one of the reasons why they broke up in the first place, and this woman is horrific. She has such high expectations on Olivia and her sister. Her sister is about to be married. The sister's fiance hits on her, and she tries to tell her sister and warn her sister to be like, hey, you're about to marry this man, just so you know this happened. But the sister is so in denial. She's about to have the perfect life, the perfect career, everything, tick, tick, tick across the board. So obviously blames Olivia because Olivia's failing and not reaching the same milestones. The things this mother says to Olivia, I was absolutely gobsmacked. Like the fact that a mother would even say that, a person would even say that to another person. But yeah, really did enjoy this one, and I liked that the epilogue we got to see kind of all the characters, all the Shanghai Gang back together when they're in their 30s. And overall, if you're wanting a contemporary romance that has a touch of angst, a whole heaping of melodrama, and is set in big cities, because I personally love a big city romance and I don't see that many, I would recommend the If Love series by Anna Huang. Next, I picked up Just Drive by Devon Sinclair, and this is a book that I completely love. I love Devon Sinclair. She is one of my all-time favorite authors. She writes my perfect brand of Omegaverse. So the minute this book hit my Kindle, I dropped everything and picked it up. And I loved everything about this. This is a Formula One Omegaverse, and I know nothing about Formula One, but this is what I want for a sports romance. Devon Sinclair does a fantastic job of weaving in the sport and making it palatable for those who have no idea what is happening. We also get, at the start of each chapter, we get commentary from reporters who are following the sport. There are newspaper articles and social media threads, and it is a fun time, and I just absolutely loved it. We do have so much Formula One because our main girl, Vanessa Lennon, has created history by becoming Formula One's first ever female driver and third ever Omega, and she has signed with the Paragon Racing Group. She was able to get this opportunity because at the end of the previous season, her ex, or a team member of her ex, wasn't able to complete the race due to injury, and his backup driver was also unwell, so they called Vanessa in and was basically like, girl, just finish the race. Don't embarrass yourself, just get the car across the line. Our team will reassess next season. And she manages to pole 7th, which is fantastic because the first 10 drivers get points. And that's phenomenal. It's her debut race and she was able to pole 7th. Yeah, Paragon was interested in hiring her. They do keep it all in secret because they know it's going to be such a controversial, even though it is bullshit that it is controversial that a woman is in a man's sport, but to keep the media frenzy as delayed as possible, they don't actually announce her addition to the team until a couple of days out from the preseason, and all the negotiations have been done virtually to limit the risk of exposure. So she ends up at this press conference for Paragon, and it is there during that press conference she finally meets the team principal, the man who was responsible for running the team, Grace and Declare, and they instantly recognize that they are scent matched. Talk about timing. And basically cue the chaos of trying to figure out and navigate their new relationship in this fast world of Formula One. Basically, the pack includes Beck, who is kind of the quiet, dominant one. He is the head engineer, so he's the guy who's speaking to her as she's racing. We do have Elias, who is the sweet better of the group. He is a mechanic, and he's actually from like a noble family, but his family's disowned him because how dare he pick such a menial job, even though, yes, he's a mechanic, but he's a mechanic for the Formula One. He's like one of the top mechanics in the world. Grayson is the head of the pack, as we mentioned, and he is like this kind of quiet, reserved man, but just like exudes dominance and leadership. And honestly, if it wasn't for him, I have no idea how they were going to navigate anything. And then the final member of their pack is River Daniels, who's actually a rival Formula One racer for a different racing group called Excellent. And he just gives like the cocky golden retriever with a heart of gold, and I love him. He loves hand necklaces, and he's had the biggest crush on Vanessa since even before they realized that they were scent match. I will say the tattoo he got for Vanessa might seriously have been one of the hottest things I've ever read. Vanessa, I loved her character. She is such a girl boss. She is so strong. She is crazy talented driver, but just due to the rampant misogyny of the sport and the fact that, you know, there's this assumption that it is only men can race, she's basically been fighting for her space and her worth as a driver since she was racing in go-karts. And even though she is racing at the same skill as other people who she was with in Formula 2 and have since gone into Formula 1, she was never given the same opportunity because of her gender. Because of this comments that she's seen as this oddity for being a female racer, she has kind of created this protective armor that she is kind of like, yeah, no worries, I don't care what you say about me because I know I am kick-ass and just watch me race better than you and do it with a fucking smile on my face. And I really enjoyed seeing her find her safe space with the pack. You know, she has to put up this front, so it's very anti or opposite of an Omega. So watching her find the space and safety with the pack to let down those walls and be vulnerable was really sweet. Love Devon Sinclair's Why Choose. We get little moments of her interacting with each of the pack. I particularly love the date that Elliot took her on, and the dynamic she has in particular with Beck really does give her that chance to kind of switch off her brain and just be her. And then I appreciate the way that River and Vanessa are able to deal with their frustrations of what happened at work while also not letting it impact their relationship. We'll say there is trigger warnings for grief and cancer and medical treatments. Vanessa's grandfather, Vance Lennon, who is an absolute legend of Formula One, is quite sick. I did decide to read this in the middle of a workday, which was possibly the worst thing I could do while I'm trying to like squeeze in some reading time between tasks, as I was just sobbing at one stage and silently crying, which was a bit awkward when someone tried to call me to follow up on something. Overall, I cannot sing this book's praises enough. It is perfect balance of sweet and steamy. I loved the character development with all of them, and this is another book, like with Ari Wright's Once Upon a Pack, where I literally could have read another 400 or 500 pages with these characters because I am obsessed. Next, I picked up River of Roses by Anna Sin, and this is like a spicy mythology book. We are in Elysium, and Zeus is obviously head honcho and does like to toy with fates of both humans and immortals, basically as a way to keep that level of control over his powers. He has shattered souls and put them in separate bodies to, you know, inflict even more control. They can only be found and bound back together at his approval, and it's this sacred ritual called Harmonia where they're able to come back together. So he has decided to bestow one of his sons, Spearden, the chance to find his mate, which is this flower nymph called Clymene, and she's then taken to Spearden's castle, well, manor, I don't know, it's antiquity house, He's a general for Zeus and is there to kind of like bestow order in this city. And he doesn't really see her as a woman because she's been brought to his house as a child. And Clymen's trying to figure out what's going to happen and if this man she's been fated for is actually going to love her. And then we have Xanthus, who is a river god who has been apparently told by Circe, who has defected from the Olympians, that Clymen is his mate. And things go horribly wrong or right, depending on where you're looking at it. When at the bonding ceremony between Spurden and Clymen, it's revealed that it is not a two soulmate situation, it is a three soulmate situation. And Clymen, Spurden, and Xanthus are all together. And Zeus is pissed. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the world and the concept. It is quite short. I think it's like 200-ish pages. I just wish we had a little bit more time because I was so fascinated by the world that Anasin had created. I'm greedy and I just wanted a little bit more from the world. The spice hits from page 1, so it is an erotica, so if it's not your vibe, don't read it, but I did enjoy the dynamic between the three characters. There is mention that there's history between Xanthus and Spurden, but again, it's one of those things that I think if it had been a bit longer, we would have been able to see more of that history and that kind of dynamic between them would have made a little bit more sense. And then the kind of dynamic between all three of them would have been a little less insta-lovey. I think there's going to be another book. I don't know if it's going to follow these characters or we'll have a different character, but if you're wanting like a fun, spicy MMF with a Greek myth twist, I would highly recommend this one. I then read Her Tortured Beast by E.P. Barley, and oh my god. Miss E.P. Barley, you keep unfortunately ending my books in the wrong spot or just like missing pages, you know, leaving pages out of my book, and now I have to like wait for the 5th book, Her Monstrous Beast, and it's painful and I just don't know why you keep doing this to me. I finished this book and I was like, wait, what did I just read? What do you mean? What's gonna happen to Aurelia now? Like, what more is gonna happen to her? Like, the fact that this book is called Her Tortured Beasts, yeah, this is definitely the darkest of the 3 books, and I literally have no idea what is going to happen now to Aurelia and her mates, but I'm locked in. I'll be praying to Evie Barley that I get a review copy for the 5th book, and I can't tell you anything. This is a world where shifters exist, like all kinds of shifters. You know, we've got dragons and lions and tigers and bears and platypuses. I do remember there was a platypus, and it's set in Australia. Aurelia is the banished daughter of the Serpent King, and we find out in the 1st book her abilities have been kept hush-hush, because if it was to be uncovered, then she would have no say and she would basically be sold as a breeding mule, which, with the state of what's happening with women's bodily autonomy in parts of this world, does hit a little close to home and is very scary. On her 13th birthday, when it is revealed what her animus is, her shifted form is, it's also revealed that she will have 5 mates of 5 different orders, which never happens and is going to be a dead giveaway. So she has basically been told to keep her mouth shut, and if she does a few jobs, she's a phenomenal healer for her dad, who is kind of like part politician, part gang warlord, that she will be able to escape. However, her last job ends up healing a dangerous monster who ends up being one of her dangerous fated mates, and 2 of the others are sitting there looking at her. And in quick succession, she is married off to some old eagle man. He's killed, house is burnt, she's blamed for arson, and her mates have been let out of the dungeon and have been tasked with hunting her down. And she ends up in the Animus Academy, which is supposed to be academy for feral or dangerous animus shifters, in hopes to like rehabilitate them. And yeah, it is wild, it is bonkers. If you're a fan of, as I mentioned at the start, the Jasmine Mass's Cruelverse or the Mate Games, I think you would thoroughly enjoy this one. It is dark, Trekkie triggers. But at this stage, this book owns my heart and soul, and I need to know what's going to happen, because this book hurt. It hurt so good, and I'm sure that means that the HEA is going to be so fucking worth it. I then wanted something a little bit lighter, and I picked up Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Faeries by Heather Fawcett. This book has been on my radar since it was first announced, and I completely loved this. So we are following Emily Wilde, who is a researcher and a doctor. So we're in this kind of like alternate reality where fairies are real and people, you know, research them. And this is told as like a faux academic journal. It's not necessarily like the actual paper that she's working on or writing, but it is her research notes. She's a genius scholar and a meticulous researcher who's wanting to publish and collate the first ever encyclopedia of fairies. But she is not great with people. And she arrives at this little village called Hansvik. I probably said it wrong, but in my mind it was like an alternate Iceland, where she is set to find this rare fairy, which will be the last like entry in her encyclopedia. It's not going too well because she's accidentally pissed off the townsfolk who are there to help her during the winter, unintentionally, but she just needs to be there to get her research done. She doesn't super understand why she's pissed them off and doesn't really kind of care. She just wants to get time to do her research. Unfortunately, her insufferable, dashingly handsome colleague / academic rival Wendell Brambleby just rocks up and has decided to invite himself on this exhibition. And I will say, if you love a dramatic hero like Hal from Howl's Moving Castle, you will love Wendell. I love him with all my heart. He is just a riot and it is so funny. It's funny because Wendell clearly has been pining for her and sees them as friends, but Emily just is frustrated that he seems to be getting all these like accolades, like he's got tenure, he's been published everywhere, his research is seen as important, but she doesn't feel like he puts a lot of effort in. And he's invited himself because he's got himself in a little bit of trouble from some creative embellishments in the last paper that he published that he is hoping to help Emily finish off her encyclopedia, which he so kindly offered to write the foreword to in hopes of like saving face before this big conference that's going to take place. And he is going to be the keynote speaker. He wants to use some of this research so he can present it and he can get funding, but it also in turn Emily would then be able to potentially get tenure at her university. And it is just so much fun. I love that it's written in this kind of like journal. Emily is so meticulous and so intelligent that throughout we have like little footnotes, and I listened to the audiobook and read it at the same time, and it was just so much fun. They end up uncovering secrets of these fairies called the Hidden Ones. She has some suspicions that Wendell might not be who he says he is, and she ends up getting roped into saving the town. It's not purely altruistic because she figures it's the best way for her to get close to the Hidden Ones and therefore finish off her research. And yeah, it's just fun. If you love a cozy fantasy like Howl's Moving Castle or Olivia Atwater's Half a Soul, even Iris Lake's The Little Shop of Grand Curiosities, I think you would absolutely devour this. And the flip side, if you've read this and haven't read any of the others, I would recommend. And then last but not least, I finished the month off by reading Rock Hard by Nalini Singh, which is a contemporary romance as part of her Rock Kiss romance series. And I did enjoy this one. I think when I first read the series, I hadn't read any of Nalini's contemporary, and I was expecting the Side Changeling series and it wasn't, so I was a little bit disappointed. But this follows Gabriel Bishop, who is the brother of all the main male love interests in her Cherish Hard series. So it was good to see him and kind of be situated back in this world. We are following him. He is a ex-rugby player who has now got a job as a CEO, and basically he is the man they bring in to turn businesses around, and his relationship with Charlotte. Charlotte is, there's trigger warnings here for SA and domestic violence, is doing her best to keep her head down and be as inconspicuous as possible. Unfortunately, after her parents died and she went off to college, she was a victim of a horribly abusive man who manipulated her based on the fact that she was grieving and she was just looking for love and support. She, after a while, realized that he was treating her like shit, so decided to end the relationship. He wasn't particularly happy about that and proceeded to stalk and violently attack her. That is only mentioned on page when she's explaining her history to Gabriel. We see that while she is safe, her ex has been arrested. She's not necessarily living her life. She is constantly doing whatever she can to kind of meld into the shadows. And Gabriel becomes the CEO of her business and realizes that she's been doing the work of the previous executive assistant or PA for the CEO. That person knows nothing, that she is instantly shot up into the presence of this man who was quite a powerful force of nature, a human wrecking ball to this business, if you will. And I loved getting to see her like stand up for him. And, you know, he does respect her intelligence and her insight into the business, which is why she kept her job. But he does push boundaries of like, well, he works 100-hour weeks, so will she. And I love getting to watch her kind of stand up for herself and learn to battle against Gabriel and put her foot down, knowing that even though that's scary for her because of the relationship she's had with men, but even though he is this big rugby player, she has this safe place to be able to find her voice and learn how to set her own boundaries, knowing that no harm will come to her. He is your typical Nalini Singh alpha hero. You know, I could totally see him being a bear if he was in like the Changeling series, or even a wolf. They're pretty protective. But overall, really loved it. We have a New Zealand setting, which again, I completely love. I am excited to continue on with the rest of the Rock Kiss series. Anyway, that is all from me today. I tried to be as concise as possible, but me being me, love to ramble about these books. So comment down below and let me know what your favorite book of March is. Or you can leave me a car emoji for Just Drive. If you'd like to see more content from me, please like and subscribe. I'll be attempting to post new videos every Sunday. Linked in the description box below will be all these books reviews if I have them, along with my social media channels if you'd like to talk to me or follow me on any other corner of the internet. Anyway, that is all from me today, guys. I hope you're doing all kinds of well, and I'll speak to you soon. See ya!